We are going to take another extended look at the forecast here as we head into the rest of the day today. Now, there is a lot going on further out towards our west, over in our north. Remember, we're talking about a very large scale winter weather system. So what I want to do is kind of take you through our forecast for sure, but I also want to give you a visual of what things look like elsewhere to kind of show you what things might look like when we have freezing rain here in our area, and then also what this snowfall event looks like for areas that are forecasted to see a massive amount of snowfall, just because this is such a big event, not only for us, but it is a really big deal across a lot of different states. So just to take you into some of that, we will do that here as well. But right now, our sky cams, very, very boring. Now, the last couple of days have pretty much looked exactly like this. We've had gray skies. Occasionally, we've had some showers, and that is the case as we kick off this morning as well. Just a dreary sight, and temperatures that are too warm right now to support anything frozen. 50 degrees in downtown Macon, but obviously that is not the case everywhere. Remember, I said we are talking about a large scale weather system. So across most of the eastern half of the United States, just take a look at these temperatures. I mean, we are at 0 degrees in Kansas City, over in northern Texas, 2 degrees, Oklahoma City, 8 degrees. So lots of single digits across the map here, and this purple color just takes over most of what you can see. So this system is moving in from the west. That's why all these temperatures over here are a lot cooler, and it is heading our direction as we go throughout the rest of the day today and into the late night hours tonight. Our 50 degrees here in Macon is definitely looking like one of the warmest spots across the temperature map. Now, what's going to be happening as we go throughout the rest of the day today is our wedge pattern is going to be building in. So you hear us talk about this a lot here in our area. It's basically when some flow is trying to move that direction, it gets pushed up against the Appalachian Mountains, has nowhere to go except for into our region. So that is what is setting up here in Georgia and mostly in the northeastern corner of the state. So when we look statewide, you can tell that the wedge is setting up just by looking at the current temperatures. Where we see this blue area is where the wedge is actually building in right now, and you can see that here in central Georgia, it has not quite made it that far south. So this is actually really important because the areas that are underneath this wedge pattern are the areas that are going to see some higher impacts from the freezing rain as it makes its way into our area. So this will graze into our northern counties, but it's not going to take over the whole area, which is why we don't have freezing rain potential for the entire area. But you can see it's setting up there, and it will continue to do that as we go throughout the rest of the day today. Like I mentioned, that is going to mean that the areas of higher impact will be under the strongest portions of the wedge. That's why the northeastern corner of the state is expecting to see extreme impacts versus us here in central Georgia. We are in the moderate to low impact category. So what that means for us specifically, you're going to see here in a minute. We are in a winter storm advisory. That is the only kind of thing that we have from the National Weather Service in terms of watches and warnings that outlines some of our counties for the potential for accumulating ice from freezing rain. But you'll see that there's kind of this yellow category here. These counties that are in this yellow category are not necessarily in the winter storm or the winter weather advisory, but the National Weather Service has outlined them nonetheless for very, very low to minor impacts from this potential system. So basically, counties that are north of I-16 have the potential to see very, very patchy spots of light ice, trace amounts in this area, but we're not talking about accumulating ice here in these areas. So that's just may make there be a couple of slick spots out on the roads early Sunday morning. These are the areas where we're talking about potentially prolonged slick spots on the roads, more of an issue with power lines, and overall just more, moderate conditions versus the low severity of impacts that we're expecting here in central Georgia. Obviously, that's us here, and then up in northern Georgia, not only are the portions that are underneath the wedge expected to see extreme impacts, but most of the northern half of the state is expected to see high impacts. We're talking between 1/4 of an inch to an inch of ice in these regions here in central Georgia. We are at maximum 1/4 of an inch. So much, much, much lower impacts here in central Georgia, but impacts nonetheless. So we're going to talk about what that means for us as we go throughout the rest of today. Now you can see what I was talking about there. The wedge is still trying to build in. I want you to kind of pay attention to the coloring of this map here because I think it does a good job showing that the wedge is trying to make its way into our northern counties. Now we're still in the 50s. It's not really building in just yet, but it's trying to, as you can see the color gradient from the blues that are up here in the north to the greens that are down here in the south. And in our southern counties, we're a good couple of degrees warmer as well. So these numbers will hold a little bit cooler through the rest of today. The numbers down in the south will be a little bit warmer again as that wedge tries to build in here to our area. But nonetheless, no matter if you're in the northern counties or in the southern counties, today is going to be a pretty quiet day. There is no potential for winter weather throughout the daytime on Saturday. Our temperatures are just going to be too warm. In those northern counties, you probably just saw the high temperature for the day, somewhere in the low 50s. In the southern counties, it's going to get a lot warmer than that. We could even be in the low 60s. In terms of actual rain chances, you may catch a brief light shower or two, but these are not going to be frozen rain chances. They're just going to be regular old light showers. We don't talk about freezing rain until we get into the late night and overnight hours tonight. So the satellite radar kind of shows that. You saw that little shower trying to roll in from the west and dying out. Things like that are possible through the rest of the day today. Otherwise, it's just a lot of cloud cover. Now up in North Georgia, it's already a little bit of a different story. The bulk of North Georgia is expecting to see this freezing rain move in similar timeline to us, late night tonight. But the northwestern corner of Georgia had a little bit of an earlier timeline on some of their guidance. They have already begun to see some freezing rain since earlier this morning, and they're continuing to see some freezing rain here in the northern portion of the state at the moment. So this is definitely something that we'll be watching for North Georgia more than for us. But again, all a part of this giant system that's moving across several states here in the area. Now quickly, while I show you this, I will kind of click around one or two sky cams that are out there right now. We're taking some coverage from a couple of different stations as well, so we're checking in with different feeds also. But I want to just kind of give you a visual for what's out there right now. I know a moment ago we checked in over in northern Arkansas. I'm going to see if I can grab one of their sky cams to show you the massive amount of snowfall that they are dealing with over there. Remember, you just saw the storm on the satellite and radar, a large, massive scale storm, and this is kind of the conditions that it's causing in areas that are dealing with snowfall. We just saw one of their meteorologists go through the forecast over in Arkansas, and they were talking about some of their areas seeing over 7 inches of snow when this thing was said and done. So a lot of snowfall coming down in these areas. On a personal note, my brother lives in Lexington, Kentucky. He told me their forecasters are telling them that they're going to see up to 2 feet of snow, just absolutely crazy. And unfortunately, we're not going to get in on any of the snowfall fun. Now, really quickly, before I head back to our forecast, I want to see if I might be able to grab a spot in Mississippi, because I know that they are dealing with a little bit of freezing rain right now, and see if we can kind of get a visual for what freezing rain looks like. Let me grab the satellite radar quickly, and I will see about an area that might give us a more specific visual with that. So maybe somewhere over in northern Mississippi, if we can. Let's see what we can do. We don't have a ton in Mississippi, that's the problem, but I appreciate that, Alex. Maybe if you find one, let me know and I can flip back to it. Maybe northern Alabama might be a better bet. I think we have a couple more sky cams over in that area. Let's see about, this is the Huntsville area, which may not look super impressive, but you can see here in Huntsville, they have a little bit of freezing rain moving over that area. I'll flip back to the sky cam. I don't see a ton here in their sky cam, but that's actually kind of the point that I wanted to make. We are not going to see like what you just saw on the Arkansas Skycam. We're going to see more like what you see here in the Huntsville Skycam. It's going to look like regular rain as it comes down. The thing about freezing rain is it falls just as regular rainfall, but once it makes contact with the surface, that's when we start to get freezing at the surface. So you'll get a light glaze of ice once things come down. So it's not like ice pellets falling from the sky. It's just like regular rain. And once it makes contact with the surface, it freezes on contact. So actually, this is kind of a good example of what freezing rain looks like, because it kind of just looks like a regular day of rainfall that we would see here in central Georgia. So I just kind of wanted to take you big picture there for a minute. We'll keep doing that through the rest of today into the overnight hours. And then of course, we're checking in with lots of different coverage across lots of different areas. But back here in central Georgia, the only areas that really need to be concerned with accumulating ice as we go into the overnight hours tonight are our northern counties. Now remember, I mentioned there's a chance for trace amounts if you're north of I-16, but the bulk of the ice accumulation will occur in Washington, Hancock, Putnam, Jasper, Baldwin, Jones, and Monroe counties. Now, this does start at 1 p.m. on Saturday, but we won't see anything until we get to the late night hours tonight. Now, big picture, there is a lot of cold weather, ice, freezing rain type of situations going on all across the map. You can see all of these different alerts. In northern Georgia, that's kind of the main one that we have to pay attention to. They are expecting to see up to, in the heaviest spots, accumulation up to an inch in northern Georgia. So much higher impacts up in North Georgia versus South Georgia. The guidance that they're going to be getting versus us is going to be a completely different story. If you're hearing a lot about what's going on up there, that is not the case for us. We are on a much lower impact scale, but a slight impact nonetheless. Okay, Alex has got us Chattanooga. So quickly before I head into the future view, let's see what that Skycam looks like. And you know, I can't really see from over here, so I'm gonna have to flip it on and see what it looks like. All right, so we are looking at Chattanooga. Maybe some accumulation. Is that what that is, Alex? I can't really see. A little bit of accumulation there, and I don't know what they have going on their radar. It looks like they've got a little bit of a mixed situation, some freezing rain, maybe a little bit of sleet as well. That could be what we're seeing on the rooftop there, but similar story to kind of what I was just telling you. Freezing rain doesn't really look much different than regular rain until it makes contact with the surface. So we could just be seeing some gray skies and some slick surfaces as we go into the early morning hours for Sunday. Thanks, Alex, for grabbing that for us. All right, so let's go through the future view here and talk about the timing of this whole situation. Now remember, it's not going to be much of a thing through the day today. It's really not until we get to the overnight hours tonight that we start talking about freezing rain potential. Through today, you may see a shower or two, but like I mentioned earlier, you don't have to worry about that having anything frozen. We are too warm this afternoon to have anything frozen in the air. Now, as we head into late night tonight and really overnight tonight, that's when we'll start to see these showers that are going to roll into our area transition over into a freezing rain. This is only for counties that will be north of I-16. South of I-16, you will likely still see some showers tonight, but they will not be of the frozen variety. So it's really kind of around midnight and beyond that we start seeing this take over more of our northern counties. So just kind of consistent freezing rain through the early morning hours on Sunday. And then as we get closer to when you'd be waking up, this is when we start to see these showers fade out just a little bit. So now we're at Sunday mid-morning. You can see there's not as much going on the future view, so most of what is falling will start to kind of die down. Then when we get to the late morning hours on Sunday, we should be losing most of the precip altogether. So by Sunday at noon, all of this should pretty much be gone. Our temperatures will be above freezing. There will not be any more rain falling, freezing rain falling, but by the time we hit noon, then we transition into a totally different story. Of course, our concern in the morning is going to be the freezing rain potential for our northern counties. In the afternoon, the concern goes from the northern counties down to the southern counties as a line of showers and organized thunderstorms is going to approach our area. So by the time we hit 2 in the afternoon, that'll be creeping into our northwestern counties, and then it creeps across our whole area throughout Sunday late afternoon into the early evening. Leaves behind a little bit of rainfall with it, so we still deal with rainfall into Sunday evening and Sunday late night. And that is kind of why we still have a little bit of a refreeze potential on early Monday morning. A lot of moisture will be out there as we head into the overnight hours Sunday and kick off early Monday morning. Now, Chief Meteorologist Ben Jones made a good point about this the other day. In the overnight hours heading into early Monday morning, the time frame that we are actually below freezing is going to be pretty short. So yes, there is a refreeze potential for Monday morning, but it's not a very long time frame. So right now we're looking at a potential for maybe if you could just be on the roads a little bit later once the sun comes up, that could help you out. Otherwise, you know, the time frame that things have to really freeze over and cause prolonged issues is going to be fairly short, because as we head into Monday afternoon, temperatures will be back above freezing. Now, we talked a little bit about the winter weather potential, but let's also talk about this severe weather potential. So the Storm Prediction Center has put us in a level 1 of 5 risk for severe weather as we head into Sunday afternoon. Now you'll notice this is basically the exact opposite area that has to worry about any winter weather potential. South of I-16 is where that severe weather potential is going to be, because the temperatures in the northern counties, after dealing with freezing rain, after some cooler temperatures, after the wedge has built into some of those counties, will just not be warm enough to support any sort of severe weather ingredient. So it's really going to be counties that are down in the south that need to worry about storms as we head into Sunday afternoon. We're talking about typical severe thunderstorm type of things, any storms that try to get gusty, try to have some strong winds, potentially some hail, or try to just become strong to severe. This is a very standard level 1 risk, and with most level 1 risk comes also the chance for a brief spin up tornado. Now I'll show folks this because I know a lot of people like to see this product when we do have severe weather risks. This is just the tornado parameter. So I mentioned a slight risk for a brief spin up tornado, and it is in that area that the National Weather Service has outlined for a severe weather potential. Now we're on the low end side of the scale. If we were talking about numbers that were over here in this pink or red category, that would be a much higher potential, but we are just in this potential for something that might just briefly try to spin up and then will lift up just as quickly as it did that. That's kind of what these colors signify here, but it is something that we'll pay attention to as we go throughout the afternoon on Sunday. So that is the severe weather potential, but of course, first comes our winter weather potential. So these are kind of the take-homes that I want to emphasize as we go into the late night and overnight hours tonight. We've got potential ice accumulation between 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to show you here in a moment what that actually means in terms of impacts out on the roads, in terms of impacts on power lines, but those are going to be in the areas that are in the winter weather advisory. Remember, that's Jasper, Putnam, Hancock, Washington, Baldwin, Jones, and Monroe counties. They have the potential to have some actual accumulation. But the counties that are north of I-16 could still see some trace amounts of patchy ice. That does include us here in downtown Macon, parts of northern Bibb, parts of northern Twiggs, northern Wilkinson, northern Crawford, and northern Upson. Those are kind of the areas I'm talking about. Could just see some light patchy ice that will be gone by the time we head into the afternoon. Then it totally flips. We start talking about the southern counties, and they have the potential for a couple of gusty thunderstorms on Sunday afternoon and evening. I mean, that is just more than you could ever ask for in one day of weather. We get absolutely everything under the sun, and then it is gone by the time we head into the upcoming work week. So temperatures are going to be a very big part of this story as we go throughout the rest of the day today. Remember, we're not going to be cold enough to actually support the freezing rain, but it's as we head into the late night hours that we need to keep an eye on our temperatures, because they will dip down cold enough for us to have freezing rain. Now, I know it might look a little bit strange. Sometimes I think the graph model tries to kind of go a little bit warmer than temperatures actually end up being. So I think as we climb into numbers that look like this, they may in reality actually be near or below freezing. And then as we head again into the early morning hours, still maintaining those temperatures, and then we are back above freezing heading into Sunday afternoon here in the northern counties. But check out the southern counties in the 70s. And again, that's why there's that distinction between these areas having enough fuel to support thunderstorms and these areas not quite so much. So that's the temperature situation. Then again, the refreeze potential is there on Monday morning, but not for very long. Look, we're already at 4 a.m. on Monday. Temperatures are near freezing, and then they drop just below freezing as the sun starts to come up. So it's not a super prolonged time that standing water has to freeze. Of course, again, I think if you have interest in Monday morning, it's still something to pay attention to. If you could prolong your time to be out on the roads, if you could go out a little bit later as these temperatures actually start to climb a little higher, I think that would be ideal. But overall, it's not a very long window that things would have to refreeze. So with that being said, I'll jump back to the ice potential in our counties that are outlined in that advisory. I'm showing you the HRRR model just to show you what another model thinks. I showed you the graph. The HRRR model is a lot more conservative about how far south that freezing rain actually makes it, but the story is generally still the same idea. We'll deal with that through Sunday morning until the temperatures are up, and then we get that line that comes through here, and severe weather potential is our bigger focus after that. So the ice totals, again, are supposed to be a lot higher up there in North Georgia. Here we're expecting to see between 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch in these counties that are outlined in that winter weather advisory. But when we say that, in fact, if somebody was saying that to me, I don't think I would really know much about what that means in reality. So let's kind of show you what that means. In terms of 1/10 of an inch, we're talking about a light glaze. This is just what I was talking about in those trace amounts. That means that there could be 1 or 2 slick spots out on the roads, but roads are not going to be completely impassable or covered. It's just time that you'll want to take a little bit of extra caution when you're driving, because there could potentially be a few problem spots out there on the roads. Now, when we start getting to 1/4 of an inch, which is the higher end that our advisory counties could end up seeing, this is when things start to get slightly more problematic. We're talking about more dangerous conditions out on the roads, slightly more widespread than just that 1/10 of an inch. And this is when we start to have issues with power lines and several power outages across the area. Now, yes, that is definitely an impact, and that's something that we'll be watching in those counties that are outlined in the advisory, but it's not quite as bad as what we're talking about up in North Georgia. This is more of a widespread power outage situation, which is really the main concern. And then also that is when roads become completely coated and completely impassable. So that is the ice storm warning. Areas that are in the winter weather advisory are talking more about those low end impacts from the winter weather. So that is kind of the big picture situation out there right now. And I'm just trying to make sure that there was nothing else that I wanted to mention just briefly before I wrap up what I was going to say. I think that pretty much covers the weather situation here in our area. Again, this is rolling in from the west, so as we head into this evening, there will be a lot more situations unfolding across multiple states. We'll be able to get check-ins here, again, with different stations, and we are continuing to bring you coverage every hour on the hour here with our team of meteorologists, and then also we have reporters who will be doing some behind-the-scenes work as well. So a lot to come as we go throughout the rest of today into the overnight hours, and then, of course, Sunday morning, that true situation where we will be watching our area. But you can find the latest right here where you are on 13 WMAZ Plus. I believe I'm going to send it back over to Carmen, and we will continue talking as we head into the next hour.
Ansley, thanks so much. Now, as we continue to watch what tonight will bring, you can continue watching the radar 24/7 as winter weather moves into central Georgia. Scan the QR code right now on your screen, and you can stay up to the moment with current conditions as winter weather moves into our area. And stay with us on 13 WMAZ Plus all day today for continuous storm updates